Far beyond the crowded cities and noisy streets of Earth, in a quiet and isolated observatory perched high on a snowy mountain, a small group of scientists worked late into the night. The observatory was one of the most advanced on the planet, equipped with enormous antennas and delicate instruments designed to listen to the faintest whispers from space. On this particular night, something unusual caught their attention. Something so faint and strange it made them stop their work and lean closer to the screens. The signal was like nothing they had ever heard before. At first it seemed like random noise, a jumble of static and static bursts that could easily be mistaken for interference. But then slowly, a pattern began to form. The signal repeated, and each time it carried a complex sequence of pulses and tones that looked like a language, one that was not of Earth. As the scientists carefully decoded the message, they realized it was a distress call coming from far beyond their galaxy, a desperate cry for help from a civilization on the edge of destruction. The words were broken and fragmented, but one thing was clear. Whoever sent the signal was in terrible danger, and they were begging for aid before it was too late. News of this discovery spread quickly across the world. Governments and space agencies scrambled to understand the full meaning and the possible consequences of the message. A global space coalition was formed, made up of the brightest minds and strongest leaders to decide what to do. There was debate and disagreement. Some argued it was too risky to answer the call, fearing it might be a trap or an invitation to danger unknown. Others believed that helping another intelligent species was the right thing to do, no matter the risks. In the end, the coalition agreed on one thing: whoever would respond to this message had to be prepared for the worst. They needed a team unlike any other, a group of people who had faced death and come out stronger, who had taken on missions no one else could complete. The decision fell to the Vanguard Unit, a secretive and elite group known across Earth not only for their skills, but also for their unpredictable methods. The Vanguard had earned a reputation for being dangerous, wild, and sometimes reckless, but their successes were undeniable. Governments and leaders trusted them because, when the stakes were highest, the Vanguard never failed. The members of the Vanguard came from all walks of life. Some were former soldiers, others were scientists, engineers, or explorers. What united them was their determination and courage to face the unknown without fear. They had survived battles with rogue factions, stopped threats to Earth's security, and solved mysteries that left everyone else baffled. Now, they were being called to a mission unlike any other, to travel across space, to a place humanity had never reached before, to answer the plea of a civilization begging for help. As the team prepared, there was an atmosphere of tension mixed with excitement. Each member knew that this mission could mean the end of everything they knew, or the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. The message itself was puzzling. It contained hints about the nature of the threat, a force so powerful it was consuming entire worlds, leaving nothing behind but silence. Yet there was also hope in the signal. The senders still believed that help could arrive in time. The scientists and leaders worked feverishly to build a plan. The Resolute, the Vanguard starship, was outfitted with the latest technology, weapons, and supplies for the long journey ahead. No one knew exactly what awaited them, but the team trained hard, preparing for every possible danger. On the night before their departure, the Vanguard gathered in the ship's briefing room. The leader, a calm but fierce woman named Commander Alara Voss, looked at each of her team members and said, "We are stepping into the unknown. What we find out there may challenge everything we believe. But we are humanity's sharp edge, its final hope. We carry not just our own lives, but the future of many. Let's be ready to fight for it." The room fell silent, heavy with the weight of responsibility. Outside, the observatory's giant antennas continued to listen, hoping to catch any new signals from the distant stars. Somewhere out there, a civilization waited and prayed that Earth's most dangerous force would be enough to save them before it was too late. The Vanguard boarded the Resolute under the cold glow of the starship's landing lights. A vessel unlike any other Earth had built, heavily armored, fast, and equipped with technology that was still being tested in secret. As the massive engines hummed to life, the crew settled into their stations, the weight of their mission pressing down on each of them like an invisible force. They were leaving behind everything familiar and stepping into a vast, unknown darkness, filled with dangers they could only imagine. The distress signal's coordinates led them far beyond the edges of mapped space, into a region where stars were scattered thinly like distant jewels, and the cold stretched endlessly. Despite their advanced training and fierce determination, tension simmered beneath the surface of the team. Each member carried shadows from their past, failures that haunted their dreams, battles that left scars no one could see, and questions about what kind of enemy awaited them. Lieutenant Kieran, the ship's engineer, was silent most of the time, his mind replaying a mission gone wrong that had cost his closest friend's life. Dr. Alara, the medical officer, worried about the unknown illnesses or injuries they might face on a distant planet with alien biology. Even Commander Voss, the steady leader, felt the weight of uncertainty pressing on her shoulders, knowing that the smallest mistake could cost them everything. As the Resolute sped through the blackness of space, the team's scanners picked up strange signals, echoes of a battle long ended but still etched across the stars. They came upon the ruins of a once great fleet, the twisted wreckage of massive ships floating silently in the void. These were not Earth's designs. The technology was alien and far more advanced, with strange energy sources and weapons that had torn apart entire worlds. The sight was a chilling reminder of the power they faced and a warning of the destruction that might lie ahead. Despite the danger, the vanguard pressed on, their minds sharp and their spirits unyielding. They relied not only on the starship's artificial intelligence, a system capable of processing vast amounts of data and running complex calculations in seconds, but also on their own instincts and creativity. When the AI's logic failed to solve certain problems, such as unusual gravitational anomalies or unexpected energy surges, the team worked together to improvise solutions, drawing on human intuition that no machine could replicate. In one tense moment, the Resolute entered a region of space riddled with debris from the cosmic war zone, a deadly maze of broken starship parts, shattered weapons, and drifting fuel cells. The ship's automated systems struggled to navigate. The chaos and the crew quickly took manual control. Kieran coordinated with the pilots to weave the Resolute through the obstacles, his voice steady despite the danger. The tension in the cockpit was thick, but the team's combined focus turned the near disaster into a triumph. As they moved deeper into this mysterious territory, the crew discovered strange signs of life, signals too weak to be from any known species but hinting at survivors or hidden dangers. Every new reading sparked a mixture of hope and fear. Was this a clue that they were close to the civilization in distress? Or was it a trap set by hostile forces waiting to ambush them? Night after night, the crew faced long hours of silence, broken only by the hum of machinery and the occasional blip on the sensors. In those quiet moments, memories surfaced and fears grew. Some questioned if humanity's bravest could truly stand against what lay ahead. Others found strength in their bond, reminding themselves that together they were more than the sum of their fears. The Resolute's journey was not just a test of technology, but a challenge to the very spirit of the team. Commander Voss often gathered her crew in the briefing room, sharing stories of past victories and reminding them of the purpose that brought them here: to be the light for those lost in darkness, to bring hope when all seemed lost. Slowly, the stars ahead grew brighter, and the distress signals became clearer, guiding the vanguard ever closer to the heart of the mystery. But the shadows of doubt and danger remained, a constant reminder that in the vast universe, humanity was still a small player in a game with stakes far beyond their understanding. As the Resolute pressed on into the unknown, every member of the vanguard felt a mix of fear and fierce determination. The journey would test their limits in ways they could not yet imagine. Yet in their courage and resilience, the true power of humanity shone. A power born not just from technology or strength, but from the will to survive and the hope to protect others, no matter the cost. After weeks of travel through dark, silent space, the Resolute finally reached its destination, a small planet circling a dying, flickering star that cast weak light over the shattered landscape below. From orbit, the team saw a world scarred by destruction. Vast craters burned into the surface, Ruined cities half buried in dust and clouds of ash drifting over once vibrant lands. The planet seemed to be holding its last breath, and the sense of loss was almost unbearable. As the vanguard prepared to land, their sensors picked up faint signs of life, scattered pockets of survivors hiding in underground shelters and damaged outposts. But the air was thick with danger. Something was wrong here. This place was the home of the civilization that had sent the distress call, now on the edge of extinction. On the ground, the team quickly learned the terrible truth. An enemy known only as the Null Swarm had ravaged this world. It was unlike anything they had encountered before. An endless, hive-like force that consumed everything in its path, leaving only silence and death behind. The swarm was relentless, moving with a terrifying speed and adaptability that made it nearly impossible to fight. Entire cities had fallen in days, populations wiped out or forced to flee underground, their culture and history threatened with total erasure. The survivors the vanguard found were exhausted and fearful, but still held on to hope. The team was welcomed cautiously, aware that any mistake could cost more lives. Using their advanced scanners, the vanguard began to study the alien technology. Around them, devices and machines unlike anything on Earth, powered by energy sources that defied human understanding. Despite the devastation, the survivors had managed to keep some of their knowledge intact, and the vanguard quickly realized that this could be the key to fighting back. Working alongside the alien scientists and leaders, the team shared Earth's own strategies and weaponry, blending human ingenuity with alien innovation in a desperate attempt to build defenses strong enough to hold the Null Swarm at bay. Time, however, was their greatest enemy. The swarm was not just coming, it was already close, closing in faster than expected after every failed defense. Scouts and drones from the hive were detected moving beneath the planet's surface, preparing for another wave of destruction. The vanguard's leaders gathered to devise a plan, knowing that failure was not an option. They studied the patterns of the swarm, searching for any weakness or flaw that could be exploited. The answer was not simple, and the more they learned, the more they understood the scale of the challenge before them. The Null Swarm was a collective intelligence able to adapt and learn from every attack. Traditional weapons barely slowed it down, but the vanguard's strength lay in their ability to think differently, to approach problems from unexpected angles. Using a combination of guerrilla tactics, sabotage, and advanced technology, they began to strike at the swarm's supply lines and communication hubs hidden deep underground. Every successful hit was a small victory, but the cost was high and the pressure to act quickly grew heavier each day. Alongside the fighting, the vanguard worked to protect the civilians, setting up safe zones, organizing evacuations, and teaching survival skills. The team formed bonds with the alien survivors, sharing stories, fears, and hopes. These moments of humanity in the face of destruction reminded them all why they fought so hard. Commander Voss led the charge with quiet determination, inspiring her team to push beyond their limits. She knew the mission was bigger than any one person or planet. It was about stopping the Null Swarm before it could spread and threaten other worlds, including Earth itself. The stakes could not be higher. As the swarm's forces gathered for what seemed to be a final assault, the vanguard launched their most daring plan yet, an attempt to disrupt the hive's central control core buried deep beneath the planet's surface. The mission was dangerous with no guarantees of success, but it was their best chance to turn the tide. In the darkness of the alien tunnels, the team moved carefully, facing not just the physical dangers of the swarm but the psychological strain of the mission. Every step could be their last, and trust was their only weapon. The story of the shattered world was one of loss and hope, destruction and courage, and the vanguard's fight would become a beacon to all who heard it. If they succeeded, it would prove that humanity's resilience and determination could stand against even the most terrifying enemies in the universe. If they failed, the Null Swarm would continue its path of death, leaving no refuge in the stars. The fate of this distant world and perhaps many others now rested in the hands of Earth's most dangerous force. As the Null Swarm's shadow stretched over the shattered world, the vanguard knew that conventional methods would not win this war. The enemy was unlike any force they had faced, vast, relentless, and terrifyingly efficient, yet the spirit of humanity burned brighter than ever in the heart of the team. Drawing deeply on their creativity and unpredictability, the Vanguard began to transform the desperate defense into a fierce, clever offense that caught both the alien survivors and the approaching swarm by surprise. They studied the movements and behavior of the null swarm carefully, identifying patterns that seemed rigid but could be broken. Earth's warfare had always thrived on flexibility and quick thinking, and the Vanguard brought these traits into the battlefield, blending alien technology with human tactics in ways no one had imagined. Instead of meeting the swarm head-on, they used the planet's terrain to their advantage, setting traps in narrow canyons and labyrinthine ruins, luring the enemy into zones where their numbers counted for less. Explosives made from scavenged materials were hidden beneath the soil and in crumbling buildings, designed to detonate in sequence and create devastating chain reactions that slowed the swarm's advance. The alien survivors watched in awe as the Vanguard introduced guerrilla warfare tactics, ambushes, hit-and-run strikes, and sudden retreats that disoriented the hive-like enemy. Their boldness, audacity, and willingness to risk everything for the mission were unlike anything these people had ever seen, and it inspired hope when hope was scarce. Behind every maneuver was a deep understanding of human nature, the ability to improvise, to see opportunity where others saw only danger. In the command centers and safe zones, the survivors trained under the guidance of the Vanguard, learning to move silently through dark tunnels, communicate with hand signals, and repair improvised weapons. They shared stories and memories, blending human and alien experiences, and in this shared struggle, a powerful alliance was born. The stakes were clear. If they failed, the null swarm would not stop with this world. It would consume everything, including Earth. The Vanguard's determination was fueled by this knowledge, pushing them beyond fear and exhaustion. Their leader, Commander Voss, inspired her team with quiet confidence and fierce resolve, always reminding them that this was not just a battle for survival, but a test of what it meant to be human. As the fight escalated, the Vanguard coordinated multiple attacks that stretched the swarm's forces thin. They struck supply caches, communication nodes, and breeding grounds hidden deep beneath the planet's surface. Each victory, no matter how small, was a blow to the swarm's unity and power. Yet the enemy adapted quickly, forcing the Vanguard to innovate again and again. In one daring raid, the team deployed a makeshift device that emitted high-frequency pulses, disrupting the hive mind's connection, causing confusion and chaos among the swarm. This technological surprise was a turning point, proving that human ingenuity could outmatch the cold, relentless logic of the enemy. The battles were fierce and costly. The Vanguard faced moments when it seemed the swarm would overwhelm them, when hope flickered dangerously close to extinction. But time and again, their willingness to sacrifice everything and push past limits turned the tide. The alien survivors, once resigned to defeat, found courage in the Vanguard's example, fighting alongside them with renewed strength and determination. The swarm's advance slowed, faltered, and for the first time it was forced into retreat. Across the planet's war-torn landscapes, signs of resistance grew stronger, and whispers of victory began to spread. But even as the tide turned, the Vanguard remained vigilant, knowing that the null swarm was not defeated, only wounded, and could strike again at any moment. The cost of complacency was too high. This victory was not just theirs, but humanity's. Declaration to the galaxy that Earth's forces were unpredictable, daring, and unbreakable. Stories of the Vanguard's courage and innovation spread beyond the battlefield, earning respect and fear among distant worlds that had once dismissed humanity as primitive or weak. Their fight was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even against overwhelming odds, the desire to protect and survive could unleash powers greater than technology or numbers alone. As the sun rose weakly over the battered planet, casting long shadows across the ruins, the Vanguard stood ready for whatever came next, united by a bond forged in fire and battle. The war was far from over, but humanity's edge was sharper than ever, and with it, the chance to save not only this world but countless others still hanging in the balance. With the null swarm finally driven back and the battered alien world slowly beginning to heal, the Vanguard found themselves standing at a new beginning, not just for the survivors they had saved, but for humanity itself. The planet, once a place of ruins and fear, started to show signs of life again. Fields that had been scorched began to green at the edges, broken cities buzzed with cautious activity, and the alien people, who had lived in shadow and silence, for so long dared to dream of a future where they could thrive. The Vanguard did not leave immediately after the battle. Instead, they stayed, working side by side with the survivors to rebuild what had been lost. It was not an easy task. The destruction was deep, and the wounds ran wide, but hope grew stronger with every effort to repair homes, restore power, and reignite the spark of culture that had nearly been extinguished. The team used their knowledge to share Earth's technology and ideas, helping the aliens create new tools and systems that were both practical and durable in their harsh environment. Beyond physical rebuilding, the Vanguard helped foster trust between the diverse groups who had been divided by fear and desperation. They listened to stories of loss and survival, learning about traditions and values very different from their own, but no less important. Through this, they forged bonds that went beyond alliances. They built friendships. This was a new chapter, where cooperation and understanding became weapons as powerful as any gun or shield. As the months passed, the alliance between Earth and this once isolated species grew stronger and more official. Communications were established that allowed the two worlds to share knowledge, culture, and warnings about dangers yet to come. The alien leaders expressed deep gratitude to the Vanguard and humanity, recognizing that without Earth's intervention, their civilization would have ended in silence and dust. For the Vanguard, the mission had transformed from a rescue operation into a symbol of what humanity could achieve when it chose to face the unknown with courage and open hearts. When the time came for the Vanguard to return to Earth, the farewell was bittersweet. The survivors gave their thanks, their hopes, and their promise to remember the team who had risked everything for them. In return, the Vanguard carried with them stories of resilience, hope, and unity, lessons that would change Earth's place in the universe forever. Upon their return, the team was greeted as heroes, their journey shared across every corner of the globe. People listened with awe to the tales of courage and sacrifice, of battles fought not just with weapons, but with ideas and spirit. The world finally saw the Vanguard not as a dangerous force, but as the embodiment of humanity's greatest qualities: fearless courage, relentless ingenuity, and an unyielding will to survive and protect. These stories sparked a new confidence on Earth, inspiring a generation to look beyond their borders, to dream bigger, and to prepare for the challenges of a universe far wider and more complex than they had imagined. Meanwhile, the galaxy took notice. The once distant and quiet planet called Earth was now recognized as a power that could not be ignored. Other civilizations, some curious and others cautious, began to reach out, eager to understand this new player on the cosmic stage. Earth was no longer just a blue dot lost in the vast darkness. It was a beacon of hope and a formidable ally, shaped by its own struggles and victories. For the Vanguard, the mission had never been about glory, but about survival and connection. They understood that their role was to protect not only their own world, but to stand as a shield for all those who could not defend themselves. The new alliance was just the beginning of a greater journey, one that would see Earth take its place among the stars as a force for good and strength. And as the Vanguard looked to the night sky, now filled with possibilities, they knew that their story was far from over. Humanity's dangerous edge had cut through the darkness, lighting a path forward for countless others to follow.